Great.
Yay, we are coming live.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this Sunday. We started a little bit late. We had some tech issues.
Beautiful. Well,
But
welcome, ladies, gentlemen.
we're going ahead and getting started. I'm Carol Pilkington, and I'm a spiritual teacher and counselor, and I work with people that are going through anxiety, stress, and depression. And this week, we have the pleasure of talking about Upping Your Vibe. And Joanna is leading us off this week. So I'm going to introduce our other sisters, and then we'll take it away, and Joanna will lead us in. So, Claudia.
Hi, everyone. I'm Claudia Rocafort, and I'm one of the Sister Mavens, and I'm thrilled to be here with you. I am a spiritual facilitator and a life and business coach, and I can't wait to hear what Joanna's going to be leading us into and how we can all apply these things into our lives. When we're having a hard time, how do we vibe up? Now I'm going to pass that on to Kathy.
All right, I'm Kathy Basel in beautiful Denver, Colorado. I am a transformational life coach and energy healer, all about helping women in particular to step into our next soulful chapter. It's our time, lady friends. So vibration is everything. So Joanna, introduce yourself and tell us, lead us in this juicy conversation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joanna White. I am a spiritual holistic teacher. And I have a blend of spirit and Chinese medicine is what I use to make us whole. That's my contribution, because during my journey, You Factor is my business, and it was owning me, owning you. So becoming radically responsible for me and also unapologetic for me. That's the life that I had chose to live. In that journey of choosing me, a lot of things have, what I would say, transitioned. We like to say that we lose things, but in energy, there's never a loss. It's just a transition. So understanding these transitions are sometimes very hard. One of them was divorce. After 20 years, somebody that you love, dearly care for, tremendously, more than I can say myself. Your children, you transition. They're not the ones that you have to care for every day and give life to anymore. Now they're the ones that just only probably need some money every once in a while. And that transition, that shift is sometimes very difficult. Those are minor life challenges. Then there's the financial life challenges. I've been through foreclosure, bankruptcy. There's life challenges that have hit me. As I would say, they have been jabs in life. And at each moment, we can blame. And I realized during my journey, I no longer wanted to blame. I no longer wanted to live that story. So every day, I had to choose a new story. And sometimes it's even from the people that you love. I have to choose a new story with us. It cannot continue to be this story, not for me. So in choosing you, in choosing a new story, in choosing your vibe. So why I say vibe up is because your vibe is how you view life. It's your vision. It's how you intend to live that life, your intentions. It's how you believe your life should look like. That's your beliefs. And how I expect that to show up every day for myself. That's your vibe, your vision, your intentions, your beliefs, and your expectations. And when people around you and things around you don't match that, then it's time for it to vibe out. And a lot of times it's because we don't choose us. We don't choose our vision. We go along with somebody else's. We don't intend to live our life with vitality every day. When you wake up, how do you intend to live and embrace this day that is coming before you? That's your vibe. How do you believe this day should turn out for you? How do I expect it? So this is the thought process and the shift that needed to take place for me in my life, because I was at a place, and it was just brought to me again, of the resentment and the anger that I had been holding on to, the story of how I sacrificed everything for everybody else and nobody does it for me. And it showed up again for my birthday. But now I had to look at it. You're asking to be honored and celebrated from my son. I didn't feel that's something that should be asked for me to choose me. And the response I got was, he's going to go live with his dad. Did it hurt me? Absolutely, to the core. But how did I vibe up? My vision is not to be in a house with somebody that can't celebrate me anymore, ever again. My intentions is to live with peace, light, and love. If you don't celebrate me, you're not loving me. And that's how I view it. So people say you can't expect what others give to you. Well, I can expect the energy that I give to receive. That's why they say give and it shall be given unto you. So if that's not what's happening for my vibe, for my intentions, for my life, but how I believe I should be treated, how I expect, then I continue to not live that. That's on me. That's not on anybody else, because I didn't choose me. So when we're not happy in those situations, it's not anybody else's fault. It's knowing your vision for your life. It's knowing the intentions for your life. It's believing that you should have that. I have that. If I'm from the all-powerful, all-knowing, all everything, then I have it. If it's from the all, then I have it. That's the belief. I didn't lose my son. Our energy just shifted. There's a difference in what it is now. What it will be now is my vibe controls me. My vibe, I'm able to say, be at peace. My son is 20 years old. He'll be 21 in 8 months. I've done my part as a mother. To feel good about that, and one thing I could say is I'm grateful that he chose him and not to live in a place where he didn't feel comfortable or good, or where his vibe wasn't flowing freely. That's another thing. You don't want to be around anything that stops your vibe, because when it stops it, it becomes stagnation. So I said I would talk about how this showed up in my body. Something I have been dealing with for many years, since childbirth, actually, hemorrhoids. And I owned it to childbirth. As I sat here and was confronted with me being an angry mother, I had to sit back and say, you know what? You're absolutely correct. I've been angry for so long because going into this, I felt like I would have a partner, and I was resentful that it wasn't my expectation. It wasn't what I felt I needed. So I kept blaming and saying how much sacrifice I gave up and not looking at the bigger picture of now, not only did I give this stuff up, but it was also my choice. I chose not to choose me during that time. Why am I going to keep blaming someone for not doing it? So in creating our vibe, your visions, intentions, I just want to ask you ladies, is there a time that you can remember not choosing you? And where did it take you, or how did you feel in that time? Or what did you do to move past that time?
I've got one from when I got married. I think I confused choosing me. I chose the role on what I thought it meant to be a good wife. And actually the decision was a little flawed from the get-go, but there were so many things that I thought I needed to give up in order to be the good wife that, I wasn't even recognizing that I had the right to speak what some of my needs were that were going unmet. And they start out as little ones and you think, oh, it's not a big deal. So you let those go until they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it's like, wow, we've got this kind of irreconcilable conversation going here. And I can't even begin to unfold it. It was very hard to get to that point because the reasons that I was coming up with as far as why I was not so happy in the relationship, they were also insignificant. But it was a buildup over years of things that I didn't know that I had the right to voice my need. My need was not being met. So yeah, I can get to a painful ending there. Probably the right ending. It was the most empowering thing ever. So it's interesting because you kind of come to this like cliff moment and you jump off the cliff and you think you're gonna fall and smush, but it's like, oh no, that was actually the beginning of the rebirth. Like the best empowering part of my life came because of that divorce. So thank God. I'm not sure that anything else would have been a wake-up call loud enough for me to know that I have that ability to start to get clear on what it is that I feel I need. But I just love how you articulated it, Joanna, that I choose to live with peace. And what were your three? It was just so beautiful. And harmony and joy. Like, yeah, pick that. And we get to live into that.
That's beautiful and powerful. And I think we've all been there on some level and done it sometimes. I mean, for me, it's been a journey to acknowledge that I made some decisions thinking I was doing the best thing and thinking I was doing it for my son and sacrificing certain things for my son. And it cost me dearly. I left an executive coaching career in New York that paid me 6 figures and a 17-year acting career that I loved so that he wouldn't have the losses and the pains that I suffered as a kid, not having my dad around. And even recently, I just discovered through a process called Inner Mosaic that someone did for me that I thought was beautiful, where I realized that my sense of time and the fact that I felt this anxiety constantly that there wasn't enough time came from that childhood idea that there was not enough time with my dad. Wow, how these things kind of, lace through our lives and move through and connect and web. And it's taken me a very long time to realize I made that choice. Sure, I didn't think I would be kind of working through that choice for 15 years. I thought it might be 5. I realized it put me through a bit of that dark side of the soul because I struggled financially. I mean, I went from a 6-figure income to food stamps. It was not fun. It was challenging and painful and difficult and all of these things. And I kept then thinking, blaming outside and blaming inside. I was blaming people around me, choices around me, blaming myself in the process, and realizing, wow, that doesn't serve anything. But it took me a very long time to be able to notice the blame, to be able to notice that energy, right? And the best example that I can give is when I realized my master teacher would always say, you know, you got to love yourself more, because the world will mirror what your beliefs are. The world will mirror what you're holding inside. And she would say, you know, we'd go into the facilitation process that I talk about, that I do for others, and would be a deep meditation and deep healing through that state. And I would be in tears saying, I don't feel no love. I've shared this once before. But we can be blinded in those moments where we feel these losses, or where we feel we don't see the light, we don't see the way out. And the challenging and the most beautiful thing that happened for me was to realize that there's always duality. There's always going to be the glass half full and the glass half empty. I get to choose which one I'm going to look at. And whichever one I decide to focus on will grow. My perception of it will grow. My gratitude of it will grow. And that has been the way that I realized, wow, I can shift my relationship or my frustration with this or my vibe through. It doesn't mean that this doesn't exist and it went away. It just means that I get to handle it from a place of, what do I get to be grateful for? What is working in my life?
Right.
What are all the things that are working beautifully, that I do love, that I do have, that do support me? And the more I focus on those, the more my energy started to shift and change from that downward spiral and blame and into, okay, I get to be at peace, and I get to vibe up, and I get to see the good and the bad, but love myself more and love those around me more.
Okay.
That was big for me.
Great. Thank you, Claudia.
Yeah.
I was such a people pleaser. I even went to such lengths as to get married because I didn't want to let anybody down. I didn't want to let the people around me down. I was very young. I was in my early 20s, and I was engaged to be married. And he was an alcoholic. He had been sober for a year. Great start. He'd never been sober for that long in his life before, so it was very encouraging. But then he had an accident, a work accident that put him out of work for a while, and he started back to his old habits. And his brother died the week before we got married. He was supposed to be our best man. And we should have, by all accounts, postponed the wedding. But we didn't. And it was because of all the plans that we had made. Everybody was coming, all the other considerations that I was having. I considered others well before I considered myself. And so we went through with it. And we were separated 4 months later. So I was literally married for only 4 months because I realized that he was going into a spiral that he wasn't going to come out of anytime soon. And I wasn't going to live my life the way his mother did, with her husband, her oldest son, her second son. She had, the whole family was, involved in alcohol and stuff. Her youngest son came back from Vietnam a mess. And so it was well within the family. And I saw my life flash before my eyes, and I decided that I wasn't going to live that way. I had another purpose in life. I didn't know it at the time, but I ended the marriage. I moved here to California within a year or two, probably 2 years. And never looked back. But that didn't stop me still from considering others before myself and putting other people's considerations before me. But there came a point where I recognized what I was doing. I didn't know what I stood for. I didn't know who I was. And I began to ask those questions in a deeper way that I used to when I was a child. I think from time to time, I think all of us do when we're a child. We want to know where we come from. We want to know who we are. What are we doing here? But those questions get dampened over time as we live our lives. But those questions began to come up at a higher pitch, if you will. And I needed to go down that path to discovering my true nature and who I was, and how do I take a stand for myself? What does it mean to take responsibility for my own existence? So when we're apologizing, I don't know if you've come across some people where they're apologizing for this and they're apologizing for that. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's like every other word out of their mouth is I'm sorry. Well, they're I'm sorrying themselves completely out of existence. And I began to really pay attention to the words that I spoke.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And when I began to take responsibility for my own life and take a stand that I do exist, that I matter simply because I exist, things began to change.
And that's the beauty. That's simply because I exist. And me even shifting the energy from I deserve, even that's, I don't have to say that.
Right. That's right.
It's simply because I exist.
It's a biological fact.
That's it. So moving, that's one of the ways to vibe up. It's just simply because you exist. You are limitless. That's how powerful we really are. And the layers of choosing me has come in so many different ways. So like Carol said, at that time, choosing her was, I know I can't deal with this marriage for the rest of my life. I'm going to get out of here. But it was still layers because she still chose other people. And that's all of us. It comes in layers. It's not always, I choose me and then that's it. There's, for instances, there's times, there's even with us committing to this, with honoring ourselves with the time that we have to do it. Are we choosing us? Is this something that really brings us joy? If not, then why do we do certain things? So as Claudia mentioned, we do it because we don't want the other person to suffer. We don't want them to feel what we may have felt. One, that's projection. Because we don't know how they're going to feel by the situation. So
and it might be there for their best growing edge. Maybe they need to experience that.
Right. And we're limiting them in their growth by taking that away from them. And these are layers that I had to realize because as a mother, and I always go back to that role, because as a mother, you feel like you're a protector. I have to do this for them. They can't feed themselves. They can't do this. I have to do this for them. But when do we disconnect that? When do we allow them to become the person that they'll become? And let them choose them. So even with the friction between me and my son, what I was able to muster up and say was, I'm just grateful you chose you in this.
Beautiful.
Because at the end of the day, if you're not happy, I don't care if it's even me. Don't choose me over anything. Always choose you. And that's the lesson that I've learned. When we choose how we feel and how we're moving through life, and how that our energy is able to flow. So again, I could only speak from me. There were so many stagnant places in my life. And I guess what made me move to the body was because they were showing up in my body. And I was just very conscious about how I feel. I don't like feeling sick. And then I started realizing things were happening to me, pulling my shoulder and joints. And it was just all kinds of things are happening to my body. And as I studied the body and the emotions, and then I realized it was my emotions that is causing this pain in my body. So I mentioned the hemorrhoids. So as I study hemorrhoids is a place where your waste is supposed to pass through. And what's happening is it's being blocked. Like what's supposed to just flow is being blocked. And what's holding it is anger and resentment. And that resentment for choosing my life, because it was my choice. For me choosing my kids, for me going to work at 4 o'clock in the morning to come home so I could come home and cook to make sure they had dinner before they got out of school so I could feed them, do homework, and then get you to a game or a play or whatever we had to do to keep your active life, and then do that every day. And never found the time for myself. That wasn't their choice. That was my choice. But I had to hear what my son was hearing was the resentment of that for making that choice. And that's the awakening I had to have. Because why am I still talking about this story? That's not my life anymore. That's not what it is. And the truth of the matter, for those 2 boys, I would do it all over again. That's the truth. But why did I make it such a horrible thing? My boys are big, they're grown, and they're wonderful men. And that's the story that I'll continue to tell. No matter of me making the choices I made. So in choosing me, I'm going back to even Kathy. Those choices came from what we are trained to believe. Because even in my marriage, I was trained to believe for sickness and in health, for richer and for poor. So you're kind of expecting, that's why I go with your expectations, with your vibe, because you're kind of expecting these poorer times to come. And when they come, you endure them. You become whatever you need to become in those times. And you feel like this is the honorable thing to do. This is the right thing to do. When it's not, when you give up yourself and you don't even think about how you feel, and you become a crutch for someone, but meanwhile you're going down while you're helping them. That's not a whole life. That's a portion. And living a holistic life is looking at the whole part of you. And every part of you needs to be flourishing. And when it's not, and that stagnation shows up, believe me, we feel it, even in our bodies.
And particularly in our bodies, I think sometimes it gets to the point where we're not hearing it, we're not seeing it, we're not perceiving it, but then our bodies start to kind of up the ante, right? Until we start to notice, whether it's the headaches that become migraines, whether it's the tension that becomes chronic, whether it's the stomach aches that now all of a sudden I'm not digesting properly. There's so many ways in which our bodies start to, And we've talked about this a little bit. Start listening to those subtle things before your body starts screaming at you with major diseases, with things that really become life-changing, because precisely it is about that self-love that we get to look at ourselves, and we get to, and it's, I think, so challenging and so hard, particularly being a mother, and now being a mother of a young teenager, he's 15. Like you said, that love makes you want to kind of put everything on hold, and you'll do whatever it takes for them. But if you're not taking care of yourself in the process, and as we get older and we have possibly aging parents, or we have spouses who may need our help, or family members who have had difficulties, whatever it may be, that part, and I think particularly as women, we've also been kind of entrenched with this idea as nurturers, as givers, as that this is what we're supposed to do. And it's a beautiful thing that we have and that we love to do for the people that we love. But where do we stop and say, wait a second, I am giving more than what is healthy for me to give at this moment? Where am I not taking care of myself so that I have the energy to do that for others? And what you shared, Joanna, which is so powerful, and I'm so grateful for it, because as my son's growing, right, and I realize I made these choices. I get to take responsibility. I get to own it, all of it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't want to continue making those mistakes going forward. Now he can take better care of himself. Now I get to start rebalancing and bringing in me.
You.
What do I need? Right? How do I take care of, still be the mother, and still be a woman, and still be the worker and the provider, but still find a space and a place for me to bring in the aspects of my life that I put on the back burner.
That's it.
Giovanna, I love the word vibe and the acronym that you came up with, and you know, the vibration. Each one of our stories, the turnaround, like the crash, what that first step was taking responsibility for our lives. So could you walk us through the vibe and how that applies? Because I want to inspire that everybody can use this great acronym and gain, you know, make that new vision. I'm the one who gets to design and choose my life, and I choose me. So go ahead.
No, that's it. And that's
but then it's the I, the intention, the belief, the expectation,
right.
all of
How
that.
do I intend to live my life? So like
Yeah.
people say affirmations, and some don't believe in affirmations, but your affirmation is affirming how I intend to live my life.
Mhm.
I will, I have, I am. That is affirming. That's my intentions for how I plan to live my life. So setting those every day. So creating your vibe starts from the morning. So I do this every day. How do I visualize this day going forth? How do I intend to live this day?
Mm.
How do I believe this day should be for me? Because it's our beliefs. I believe in me. So as long as you believe in yourself, then that means anything I set forth for today, I believe should happen. I believe that. I expect it. I expect this to happen. I expect that. So they say faith without works. So if I believe that this is going to happen, it's not just sitting there and believing it. I believe it because I'm putting the work forth. I'm expecting it because I'm doing what's necessary. So a lot of times we beat ourselves up, especially starting your own business, not really figuring out the way, but you know what you know. I have a gift. I have intellectual properties that are worth millions. What I have lived through, I can help so many people, guide people to not take that turn. Choose you. That's my guidance. Always choose you. But the intellectual properties that we have, we question them every day. And we're sometimes afraid to put them out there, and it's so much that goes behind it. But as long as my vision is to be that person that has that course out there that's going to be $10,000 and people are going to pay for it. That's my intentions by the work that I'm putting forth every day. That's my belief in me that that is coming and happening. I will have my $10,000 course. I expect that. I expect that because every day I'm getting up and I'm doing the work to do it. No matter what it looked like yesterday, no matter if we took 2 steps back, no matter if I forgot and lost all my information on my computer, that's my intentions. That's my vibe every day. So when all these other life challenges start hitting and everything else, see, the thing about your vibe is you connecting with you. It's not connecting with anything else but you, because you got to know what that vision is. You got to know what your intentions are. It's not Kathy's intentions and Carol's. It's my intention. Nobody else knows that but you. So it's aligning to that. So I call it a AAA. So first you got to awake, then you got to align, then you got to allow. Because now we put up resistance and we don't allow things to come in. That's a whole nother level.
Love that. Awake, align, and allow.
Wow.
Ooh, that's a beautiful golden nugget right there.
Yes. That's my AAA program.
I'm writing
Our
that one
quiet
down.
sage is sitting there. Look at Carol. She's got that little wise look she gets.
Yes.
I think when we have a clear intention, and it really needs to be a clear intention and not one of fear, that's where the clarity comes from. And when we live from the purity of the intention without being attached to the outcome or how it looks, that's where the magic is, and that's where things happen for us. And we don't have to, I've always said this, whatever I'm looking for, it is looking for me.
I like that.
And I've always experienced that.
Is that what a man too?
Yes.
And,
Okay.
It's just the law. We've talked a lot over the years, the law of attraction, but that's what it is to me. Whatever I am looking for, it is looking for me. But I also have to do the work. It just doesn't all of a sudden show up just blindly, willy-nilly. What wasn't explained in The Secret and a lot of these other motivational movies is the work that needs to happen to have a magical life, to have something that you're wanting to attract come forth. And it really discouraged a lot of people. It left them in despair because they felt that all they had to do was hope and wish for something and it would happen.
Right.
No, you have to do the work within yourself for all of it to happen and take responsibility for every single bit of it. And when we do that, when we show up, others show up.
That's it. It's that showing up.
I have this one person that I've known for many years, and her big thing is when you ask, something will happen. But when you don't ask, nothing happens.
Mm.
Yeah. Which is an important part of that the vision. We forget that we get to ask. And I like you're saying, Carol, when we're asking, the universe has a chance to step in, then it's going to meet us. And I just think of the universe as an ever expanding environment in our world. And it's like, Joanna, you said that about it pulsing through us right now. So we should be ever evolving, expanding, And it's the universe's great delight that when we ask something big, that it gets to come down and play with us.
Right.
So what an exciting thing. If you're going to vision, go ahead and vision big. And I honestly, I just love this acronym, because to me, if you're stuck, look at each one of these pieces. Are you not visioning big enough for your life? Are you choosing a vision that's intermingled with other people's visions? Are you able to take that bold choice to choose you and what that vision is? The intention is like I love how you said every single day we get to choose from this moment forward. How, I love how you said, I live with joy and harmony and, creation, or whatever the things are. Get intentional for what that vibe is for you. And then belief. That's a lot of the work that I do, is helping people to believe. There's so much of a collective disbelief around, am I worthy? Am I deserving?
Right.
Am I lovable? Do I even belong here? Like some of these core existential questions, it's like, just what if the answer to each of those was yes? And then you step into that positive expectation. That is where the rubber meets the road. Like, I'm having that. Of course I deserve, because I'm here. Just like you said, I'm a child of God. Like, I deserve this. And the expectation that we put out of that knowing, that deep knowing that because I've requested it, it's on its way. And to celebrate it's your,
It is.
your desire is magnetizing forth the very things that you're asking.
As Carol would say, it is because it is.
And this is that part of the law of attraction, right? That was missing in many ways. It's not only the vision and the asking, but it's the vision and the intention and the belief, and then the expression of it, taking action.
Right.
Then it manifests. Then we start to be able to see it, and it expresses itself. And we set that expectation through the work, through that vision, intention, belief. And it's a very powerful thing. So that vibing up, I'm sure everybody's been through moments of loss or experienced moments of financial difficulties or being in that crossroads and not knowing which way to turn, right? How do we shift that feeling? God, I felt so lost at different points in my life that I really was just depressed and I couldn't see through the tunnel. When is the darkness going to finish? If I had had these tools then, right, just how to be able to change the view, start with a vision, start with gratitude for what it is,
Right.
gratitude for how it's all showing up for me, gratitude for all that I do have, even if it feels or looks horrid in ways, right? And then set the intention of what I want to create. And believe that I deserve it. Believe that I can achieve it. Believe that I am worthy of it. Then that expression, putting it into action, is such a powerful and beautiful thing. I love that vibe and that expectation. Vibe up. I hadn't thought of it that way, and it's a beautiful thing, Joanna. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, it's my life. and the choosing you, and just even with everything that we're taught and everything that we do,
Mhm.
like what has been my journey is choosing me in every natural and healthy way possible. So with that, that's the holistic part of my life. So just moving away, even changing your toothpaste and underarm deodorant for not using things with aluminum and things that are harmful for your body is choosing you. And that's also a journey. So sometimes I had to sit back and look at how I eat. Like you said, you'll eat and it doesn't feel right in my stomach anymore. When I have drinks, it's not the same like when I was in my 20s and 30s. It's different. And choosing me is knowing I can't do those things anymore. They don't have the same effect on me. And we sometimes just Ignore that. And that's not choosing you. That's ignoring you. And that was part of my journey, is just the energy that I hold for me. Ways that I do it naturally, like I said, aromatherapy. Our senses is how we get in tune with your supreme being, with the universe. Oxygen, you know me in this chemistry thing. After I failed it, I had to learn it. And the thing with that is our chemistry, everything with us is affected by what we put in our bodies, what we smell, by our senses, what we touch through our skin, what we hear, what we see. So these 5 senses, those are your senses to your supreme being. That's what they are. And being able to vibe up is also concentrating on those things, your senses. That's a part of vibing up. How do I feel? How do I look? How do I, like those things? When you have, I remember when I was pregnant, I couldn't smell potpourri. Till this day, I cannot smell cinnamon potpourri. It gets me nauseous to my stomach. Why would I sit around that if I know it does that to me? And that's with things in life. We do things that gets us sick or gets us nauseous or doesn't make us feel good, and we choose to continue to sit around it. We continue to do it to ourselves. So what I just want to impart today is just choose you. With whatever you're doing in life, wherever you may be, however you may feel, as long as you're choosing you and you're choosing your vibe, and not allowing someone else to choose it for you, how you choose to look at life, how you intend to live the life you are given, how you choose to believe your life should be. Like Claudia said, there's a half empty and a half full. We get the choice of where that will be for us. And then you get to believe it. Every day, I believe this is it. Why? Because I am who I am, and it is what it is. I believe that. And I love how Claudia says the expression. I said the expectation, but I love the expression because the expression is the work of it. And that's moving back to it. It's the work of it, of getting up every day and creating a vision for yourself. Getting up every day and intending that today will be a good day. Getting up every day and believing that when life doesn't show you that, when your bank account may be on a negative and you need to believe that I'm going to be in Mexico on this trip, on this retreat. And that's all on us, how we choose to view that. So what I say is just choose you, choose your vibe every day. And you must win.
Love it. And if we continue to act upon that, we can't help but express and manifest that vision and that intention. And that is so powerful.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love this.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I don't know if you heard Kiefer talk, bark. It's dinner time, and it's like, oh man, if we could tap into the vibe, the the intentionality, the belief, and the expectation of the dog asking for dinner, like we'd be golden.
Right. That's it. That's
So
it.
sweet.
That's
Yeah.
it.
So
Beautiful.
what are we talking about next week, Kathy?
So come back. It's so awesome. Well, I love the synchronicity of this because vibing up, we're going to be rolling into our next conversation, which is the art of accelerated manifestation, which is taking some of this. Now we've got the vibe part. How do we step into moving beyond the resistance from us having what it is that we truly desire. A lot of that is this belief thing, but I do it from an energetic standpoint of future casting and pulling that future vision forward so that the current belief, the anxiety, the fear and doubt that we have just isn't part of the conversation anymore. We're going to tap into that future vision so vitally that this current, doubt doesn't even exist. So there's 5 steps, and I can't wait to share with y'all March 5th.
Yay.
So exciting.
I love that. I was just putting in the chat, moving beyond the resistance and moving forward. And we can call it the 5 steps of moving beyond.
Yeah, that's nice.
Like
Moving
that.
5 steps of moving beyond.
Love that. That's going to be a really interesting conversation. So
Yeah.
I hope you're all going to join us. And always remember, we love getting your comments, your questions. If you have any thoughts, if you have any topics you'd like for us to cover,
Yes.
if you have heard of things that you'd like to have explained, let us know, because we would love to be able to address the questions you have and bring topics into the conversation that you're interested in listening more about as well. So this is going to be super fun and exciting. And please keep us posted on social media, on Instagram and on Facebook, or here on the YouTube channel. Any comments, any thoughts, we look at them and we want to answer your questions.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, everyone. We're going to end it right here, and we will see you next time. Have a wonderful week.